Hello, LinkedIn. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I am Rachel Lee, and I am the Senior Brand Manager for Software Advice. We're based right here in Austin, Texas, and our mission is to help small businesses grow and thrive through technology. If you have any questions around software and you want to talk to an advisor, just reach out to me. If you have any questions during this LinkedIn Live, we'd love to hear from you. Please put them in the window, and Nicole and I would love to answer any thoughts that you have throughout this. So please do write in. Now, I'm super excited to introduce our guest, Nicole Ryla. Nicole Ryla is the founder and publisher of RetailMinded.com. With a core concentration on independent retailers, small businesses, technology, and how the various touch points of commerce influence modern merchants, Nicole is a frequent contributor to various media outlets from Forbes to the Today Show to entrepreneur.com. So she knows what she's talking about. She's also a spokesperson for American Express's Small Business Saturday since 2014. And she's the author of the book Retail 101, The Guide to Managing and Marketing Your Retail Business. She's even recognized as number one retail futurist by IBM. All things said, she knows a few things about retail, and 'tis the season. Now, welcome, Nicole. We are so glad that you're here.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to chatting today.
Nicole, you have so much experience, and this has been quite a year for retailers. 2020 has presented a lot of opportunities and challenges. I'd love to just first understand, what have you observed and heard from independent retailers as they sort of navigated 2020?
I think as we can probably all relate to, they've had to get used to shifting gears. I mean, as the pandemic first came, of course, that was such a sudden, abrupt change for everyone. But now, across the country and across the world, places are opening and then closing down, or possibly they're limited in the capacity of their stores, or the consumers that they've generally sold to. Maybe that particular audience has really been impacted more than another retailer audience. And so suddenly they're looking at different consumers to try and reach out to. So change has been the most common thing that we've all experienced here. And I think that with that, we've actually seen some really great optimistic opportunities, right? So there's a lot of things to look forward to despite the challenges that we've seen. And I know we'll talk about that more today.
Yes, yes. One of the things that I know I started to experience, and you hear it on the news a lot too, is supply chain and inventory. In one of our recent surveys that Software Advice ran, we saw that nearly 70% of brick and mortar retailers have been impacted by supply chain delays, and almost half have experienced inventory shortages, which makes me really scared when I start doing my holiday shopping, which is already began, right? We got everything about to happen with Cyber Monday. How can retailers start to address and think about the sort of supply chain challenges given consumer demand is very focused on online?
I think it's really, really important now more than ever for retailers to leverage technology to help them gain clarity to what's going on. Because, too often independent retailers and all retailers are so busy. But right now, looking at not only what's currently in stock, but what's forecasted to be in stock, and then having communication. One of the terms that I've sort of coined, if you will, over this pandemic is omni communication. It's important for retailers to have an omni-centric and an omni-channel business, but having that communication component integrated into those efforts during this time is so important because you need to be able to shift gears quickly, reach out to those vendors, have an honest, authentic conversation and say, hey, could the possibility of this being delayed really exist? Because that allows a retailer to then, again, using their technology that brings clarity to what's sold, what they need, what anticipated sales might be, and a thousand other details, to then say, you know what, maybe we do need to introduce a new vendor or shift our strategy a bit, potentially a new category, right? So there's a lot of challenges there, but yet if they're proactive, they can be more precise and then in turn still be profitable.
Just curious, your perspective. So, if you're having supply chain delays, it's not going to make it by Hanukkah or Christmas, that item, right? What do you, if you're that retailer, the independent small business, what what should you do when you're communicating with your customers?
So once again, I would encourage that omni communication strategy, but there's two things you can really do here, I think, to benefit your business. Depending on the price points of what you're selling and what exactly it is that you're selling that might be delayed, you might actually still be able to make that sale, but to receive at a later date. Okay. So typically, this actually works better for higher ticket items or bulkier, heavier items. Okay. More of those impulse buys, it doesn't work so good. But if you're looking at a higher ticket transaction where the customer knows it's coming, they anticipate it and look forward to it, particularly let's say in the home goods category right now, a lot of people are spending dollars in that home category, and a lot of those purchases might not arrive in time for Hanukkah or Christmas. And so, with the anticipation of saying, "Hey, it's still coming, expect it, January 15th." Some customers are willing to wait for that. Now, again, I go back to that omni communication. You need to communicate both the opportunity to do that and then stay in touch with your customers along the way to say, letting you know it's been a week, we're still on track for expected delivery of January 15th or whatever it might be. And then the other thing too is that if you do in fact anticipate supply chain of your inventory, making sure that you introduce alternative inventory to help maintain the sales that you expect for your business.
That's super helpful. Another question I've been thinking about, the holiday season is obviously well underway. I haven't seen Christmas lights come up so quickly in a neighborhood. People are just, I feel like, itching for the holidays, some light and energy, right? And some good spirit. um, but for many retailers, this has been a massive transformation in their business. They haven't been set up with a online shop per se. Where does technology play a role during this holiday season for a lot of these independent retailers?
Great question, Rachel. Technology really provides the opportunity for retailers to connect to consumers at both of their leisures. So it's not just about the customer getting what they want on their terms, it's also about the retailer saying, hey, I'm going to still connect with you, even if we have challenges in store or whatever this holiday might bring during the season. For example, limited physical bodies able to be in stores at any given time, less people being social just to stroll through stores as an experience, right? People are being much more committed to saying, I'm going here to get A, B, or C versus just leisurely shopping. So, one technology I really love is called Comment Sold. And so that's a technology that allows anybody, whether you're an online or an offline retailer, but I really love it for our offline retailer, our physical stores who can be in their store, use this technology, it gets integrated into their social media accounts. Let's use Facebook as an example. They can do a live video just like you and I are doing right now. People can replay it later, but do it. Push it into their social media feeds. And through this application, there's a few steps involved on both sides for the first time you use it. Customers can say, yes, I want to buy that. So you're buying it now through this comment transaction, right? It's a social commerce experience, but it's specifically through this video. It's offering engagement. It's that shoppertainment experience, which consumers love in stores. My buddies Kaiser and Bender always explain how shoppertainment is so important. And I cannot stress that enough. You can still deliver that thanks to technology, even without that physical experience together. So I would really encourage retailers to incorporate some various technologies to help boost transaction opportunity, quite frankly. And the other thing with technology is I would say, look at the payment category. Traditional credit cards or cash and checks is not all we're seeing. We've, of course, seen Apple Pay and various other mobile capabilities for payment over the years, but now there's even something called a quad installment payment. So you have companies that allow customers to make a purchase and pay for it in 4 installments versus one. It's almost like that modern layaway. So you
Mm.
have companies called Afterpay, Klarna. These are both, they do very, very similar. And they're integrated into a lot of retailers. And as a small independent retailer, you can also introduce this. What's this doing though is giving your customers a chance to say, I can spend with you. I might need to split up my payments because the COVID might have impacted their livelihood, so to speak, right? Like their own salary or something, or they might just want to decide not to use their credit card this holiday season, whatever it is. So that's another technology advantage though that retailers have. And then the final thing I'll say to this point, even though there's many technologies that retailers can leverage here, is to make sure you're communicating this again to your customers, because if they don't know about it, they can't react to it. So again, that omni communication is so important because customers are being trained throughout this pandemic and COVID to understand things like curbside pickup more, or buy online, pickup in store, possibly do a local delivery. So consider all the touch points of that shopping experience and leverage technology to help ease that as well.
Yeah, so what you're saying, omni communication means so many things. It's not just the words that you use, it's the technology that you use to communicate. It's the communication as the brand, the retailer, and the consumer itself. I love this idea of what is it called? Shoptainment? What was that?
Shoppertainment,
Shop I
shoppertainment, yes. You
Yes,
know,
yes.
guess, Rachel, if you and I had an afternoon, let's say we finally get to meet in real time, face to face. In fact, I am going to Austin, not in not the too far distant future. Let's just say we had an afternoon to catch up and spend some time together. A lot of people in general do that through shopping, right? You stroll in and out of stores, you spend time
Yeah.
in communities. That's, shoppertainment. We're being entertained, but we're shopping as well. And so I think that's so important too for retailers to leverage that. Their communities, all of them collectively together will do better together if they recognize the value in supporting each other.
I love that. Just and it's very forward thinking and just social by nature is in this economy, in this world, doing digital marketing that has to be front and center. So I think that's just really, really smart. Love that. You know what? Another thing that I've been thinking about a lot is, shop local. I think November 28th, if I'm correct, is Small Business Saturday, right? And we shop local. I know I myself have been really intentional about thinking about that and saying who are some female business owners, whatever the case is, local, online that I want to support instead of going to Amazon. Albeit I'm going to Amazon too, and I feel kind of guilty about it, right? Because I want to be able to support all the local shops. I mean, what's your perspective on how to encourage consumers to come to their store? I know you mentioned, omni communication, but how else? Any other thoughts on that?
Well, first and foremost, I will say that with that omni communication approach, it means that you're sharing with customers the sentiment and the value of what it means to them when you do shop small. So, for example, with receipts, whether they're emailed receipts or printed receipts, make sure you include, because you can usually customize what you put into the receipt, the general template of it. Thank you for supporting a small business. This impacts not only our store, but there are various statistics that can tell you that it's usually 60 plus percentage stays within the local economy when you spend at a small business within a local economy, right? So find some identifying facts that make sense in your unique town or community, and share that, because that's offering your customers some insight that they might not have thought about otherwise. I mean, you and I, Rachel, we're in this business where it's constantly in conversation, but let's just use the word average for sake of conversation. The average consumer probably isn't having these discussions every day. So, as a retailer, position yourself to help sort of quietly train your customers to begin to recognize the value of supporting small. You can do that through some great free graphics available at shopsmall.com. They actually, for the Small Business Saturday, which is November 28th, they actually provide these templates. You can enter in your own business details and then, of course, share those graphics on your social media. But they also have great statistics you might want to share as well. Again, pushing out the insight and the value of being a small business, but then also supporting other small businesses in your own transactions. I think that we all get too comfortable sometimes, busy retailers. They're in their stores, maybe they're not physically able to go other places. Leverage your call and order. A lot of these great small businesses welcome those phone calls. What I've loved too, Rachel, over COVID, more and more have said, let's just FaceTime. Like, I will walk you through the store as a personalized appointment and show you what we have. And it becomes more of that one-on-one experience that so many of us customers enjoy. So you can do that as well. And again, you're getting the value and then the sentiment of sharing that. And then encourage your customers to leave Yelp or Facebook or other online review sites reviews. It just helps
Yeah.
visibility.
I
Mhm.
mean, just chock full of advice there. And it made me think about I just bought from an artist and one of her things, buy a print, you just gave a print to, the whatever her organization. And I felt really good about that. And I was thinking about there's for businesses doing that locally, you're supporting our local school, our gardens, whatever the case is, that would be very meaningful for me being in Austin where we have that vibe. I love what you're talking about here is communication. There's this sort of social messaging, social responsibility in some way. Just really, really good thoughts. And I know that not all small businesses are thinking about marketing and messaging and communication, but um, small things like that, even on the receipt, that's a really smart idea. I know if I went to a restaurant and they said, "Hey, you just gave money back to our community," I'd be like, "I feel really good about that." I'd feel good. So it's a really good idea.
And there's a reason as individuals we pick the communities we live in. And a lot of that is based on the character of the community that is helped to be built by the small businesses that make it up, right? So,
Yeah.
the other thing you did mention Amazon earlier, I do want to point out that, Amazon does have a bad rap, so to speak, in terms of the small business independent world. But a lot of independent retailers are now leveraging external marketplaces to help move inventory.
Right.
So if you are shopping on Amazon, you can still support small businesses. Just look at who the buyer or the seller is so that when you make a transaction, because there's usually a lot of duplicated products sold by a lot of different people. So you can actually say, you know what, I'm going to choose to shop and they're handmade on Amazon or they're, look for the sellers who are smaller business. So as a customer, we
Mm.
just need to make choices. As retailers, we need to help educate our customers.
Yes. Ah, like, yes, that is, you are making me be even more mindful. So thank you for that. I'm curious, Nicole, you were recognized as a retail futurist. It feels like 2020 was all of the future and all of the present. That's like all too real for us, things that maybe we predicted would take a few more years to instill at a mass level or happening quicker. What's your perspective on where 2021, what are the things we'll continue to see? And, really, what does the retail future look like now that we are still experiencing a pandemic?
Great question. So I think that what we saw in 2020 was an accelerated approach to hybrid retail, blending the digital and the in-person, and for those businesses that were exclusively online, also recognizing the value of customer service on an elevated level. So I think that 2021 and beyond is going to be a heightened sense of bringing back customer care. Although that sounds simple, is actually a lot more complicated because consumers are becoming more particular where we spend our time. Is it worth physically going somewhere for A, B, or C reasons, right? So that customer experience is truly going to be boosted on expectation. And as retailers, we can no longer be average. We can't even be good. We need to be great. We need to be the type of great that when you go down and have a drink with a friend on a Sunday afternoon, or maybe I only do that, but sometimes, every now and again, um,
It could be a
you,
coffee drink or a glass of wine or mimosa, whatever.
exactly. And you want to have a conversation though with your friend and say, oh my gosh, I just went to this store and let me tell you about that experience. And that usually goes in one of two ways. They're going to tell you something awesome or they're going to tell you something bad. Average doesn't get remembered, right?
No.
So if you are delivering a poor experience, that will be remembered. If you're delivering an amazing experience, so will that. So I think customer care and the heightened opportunity of that is going to be accelerated in 2021 and beyond. And with that hybrid, meaning you can blend the digital experience with the physical experience. And we're seeing that already just with, again, the curbside pickup's an example of that even because they're making purchases from the leisure of their home or office or wherever they are, but they're physically going to pick it up still. And then vice versa, you might go somewhere and then have it shipped, or you might offer private appointments so you can shop solo in a store environment, right? Scheduled
Yeah.
appointments, I think, is going to be an opportunity as well. And then all of this can be catered to with technology. So like Comet Soul, which I mentioned earlier, I think is great. There's countless technologies available to really help retailers right now. But you have to remember customers are being helped by technology too. I love that like some customers look at, for example, the payment options first to see, hey, do you accept, like I was talking about Afterpay earlier or
Yeah.
Klarna. They have their own Facebook pages that identify what retailers use them. Retailers go there first to say, I know I want to use this. Now figure out where to shop, right? So
Mm.
it's not the
Hmm.
reverse of I want this, let me figure out how to pay. It's the opposite. So that customer concern, the customer heightened expectation, I think is going to be really accelerated. It's going to be exciting. I think we lost
Yeah.
it, quite frankly, over the last few years. So I think that we're bringing it back, and I'm super excited for that.
Yeah. I mean, that's I couldn't agree more. I think we last month, was that last month? It was October, right? Was all about we had customer service week and CX day, and we talked all about customers and just how important it is. So when you say customer care, there's a lot of things to be thinking about. And small businesses and independent retailers are the closest, really the closest to their customers. Sometimes we're living in this other world, part of bigger companies, highly digital. That you're right. That now it's all about the customer, and I just love all those examples. To wrap us up here, this has been such a great conversation. You gave so many helpful tips, but if you could capture maybe two, three key tips for the small businesses to get through the holiday season, not just get through it, but really excel through it into 2021.
My very first tip is going to be don't wait or hesitate any longer to incorporate any additional insight technologies, vendors, whatever it might be that you know is going to help advance your business. I think that's actually going to hold you back. So it doesn't matter if it's the holiday season, you can still do it. There's still time to implement these details. It's only going to help you in the future as well. I hear it too often. People say, oh, I'll wait, or I'll do it in the new year. There is no longer wait. Wait should never be upon your to-do list. You should just do it now. So go ahead and move forward, implement new technologies, new vendors, new marketing, new strategy, and of course, new communication to your business so that you can heighten your overall opportunity. I always say be proactive in order to be more precise, to order to be more profitable. And if you can do those things, that includes analyzing the details of your business, your employees, your inventory, customer care, you will continue to move forward despite the changes and challenges ahead.
It's awesome. Nicole, how can people keep up with you? Where are you up to? How can they keep up with you?
Yeah, you can always follow at retailminded.com. I'm pretty active on Instagram and Twitter as well. So you'll want to find me at the handle retailminded on Twitter and retailminded world on Instagram.